Yeah, and he's laughing at us right on the radio. He's laughing at us.
No, it's me laughing, dickhead. We won.
All right. They won too, man.
That's not what I heard.
No, we did. We got Jester.
No. Below the hard deck does not count.
Hard deck my ass. We nailed that son of a bitch.
You guys really are cowboys.
What's your problem, Kazansky? You're everyone's problem. That's because every time you go up in the air, you're unsafe. I don't like you because you're dangerous.
That's right. Nice. Man, I am dangerous.
Maverick, you and Goose get your butts out of that flight gear and up to Viper's office now.
If you'd like to read my blog, Maverick, what it's really about, you can find it at batshitcave.blogspot.com. Now, this blog is really a continuation of a previous one I did called Spielberg Questionable Symbolism. And in that video, we look at some of the classic 80s Spielberg films like Goonies and Raiders, Indiana Jones and all that. And we look at some of the disturbing sexual innuendo and symbolism that we sort of missed the first time we saw it. And the concept of looking at films this way, I have to say, probably started with when I saw this film in the 90s, Sleep With Me, where Quentin Tarantino makes a cameo appearance. And it's very funny. He's some guy at a party talking to another guy at the party in Hollywood or something, and they're talking about films. And Tarantino's character starts going into how great the film Top Gun is, like how it's the greatest script ever written. And the guy he's talking to looks at him like, are you crazy? Like, what are you talking about? Top Gun? It's just like some slapstick blockbuster action movie. And Tarantino's like, no, it's all about subversion. Let me tell you all about it. He starts getting into how his theory about the film is that it's all about a heterosexual man's struggle with his homosexuality. And it sounds really silly at first, but he starts getting into it, and it's really funny because they say things are funny because they're true, and he's going on and making all these points, and he's right, and you just saw that footage. I mean, how homoerotic is that? It's about as, just look at the dialogue and the mannerisms, and it's just so over the top. And some guy apparently got inspired and did this video on YouTube called Top Gay, where he sort of, it's a compilation of all these scenes. You can see here Maverick and Goose like playing volleyball and like holding each other like they're a couple, So when Maverick came out, the long-awaited sequel to Top Gun, I figured, okay, there's going to be some weird symbolism in this film, right? And lo and behold, there was. To say that it contained the same sort of sexual innuendo and symbolism is not adequate. It's a thoroughly filthy, disgusting film. And maybe it sounds like I'm joking right now, but I'm really not. Just as a note, this blog does contain a lot of suggestive language, which may be disturbing to some people. And I would ask you to bear in mind that I did not write the stuff in this film. I'm just pointing it out. So if you find it offensive, the language in this blog, just remember that someone or a group of individuals sat down and made the decision to put all this in the film. So if nothing else, I hope you walk away asking yourself why. I've done a few of these types of blogs over the years where I take apart these films and the symbolism, and I don't get a lot of feedback. So I don't know how interested you people are in this stuff. So if you find any of this interesting or you have something to say about it, feel free to, leave some feedback or, email me at tinfoilhatfashion@protonmail.com. But this stuff is highly disturbing to me. And I honestly, I can't believe that more people don't see this stuff and find it shocking. So some words that I use a lot here are innuendo, which is the making of a remark or remarks that suggest something sexual or something unpleasant, but do not refer to it directly. That's from dictionary.cambridge.org. Another word I use a lot here is overtones. If something has overtones of a particular thing or quality, it suggests that thing or quality, but does not openly express it. And one other thing I probably should have thrown in here is the meaning of euphemism. A euphemism is a mild or indirect word or expression substituted for one considered to be too harsh or blunt when referring to something unpleasant or embarrassing. So this is all very psychological. So maybe I catch a lot of you off guard with these types of blogs by getting overly psychological, and maybe you just think I sound like a nut. I don't know. But it seems pretty thought out and pretty scientific in a way, which is scary because it indicates that very intelligent minds are behind the creation of these, what we think are kind of dumb action films, but they're actually highly psychological. They're just operating on a level that we're not really aware of. And yes, they are dumbing us down in a big way.
I decked my ass. We nailed that son of a bitch. I decked my ass. We nailed that son of a bitch.
So the hidden theme behind Maverick is really quite simple and seems to build upon a sort of pun introduced in the original film Top Gun. We just saw the clip there in the beginning. It's all about what happens below the hard deck. But we must understand that this phrase hard deck is a euphemism for something else. That is the key that picks this lock. And I pulled this off the internet. The term hard deck originated with fighter pilots. Hard deck was slang for an altitude, 10,000 feet or so, that represented ground level during flight training exercises. If you went below the hard deck, you had hypothetically crashed and were out of the exercise. So look at the body language in this scene here, harkening back to Top Gun again. This guy's like laying down with his legs open. Maverick's bent over. It looks like his head's right where Goose's crotch is. There's these guys back here that are like half naked, just sort of stare. I mean, the whole thing is just so. Now, Maverick says, hard deck my ass in that little clip there, like. And as you saw, when we slow it down and play it back, it sounds like he's saying hard dick my ass. And then he says, we nailed that son of a bitch. Well, when you nail someone, that can have multiple meanings. One of which is specifically sexual, as in, I nailed that chick the other night. There's also the fact that Iceman responds to Maverick by saying, you guys really are cowboys. Cowboy is slang for queer in certain contexts. Not so much these days, but back before political correctness, it was used a lot more that way. And the film Brokeback Mountain famously builds off of that, that stereotype. And then there's like the famous bite mouth motion that Iceman makes, which is like kind of like the most homoerotic moment in cinematic history, probably. So let's take a look at the poster. Now, these posters for a lot of these blockbuster movies, like you may have seen in some of my blogs about the recent Star Wars trilogy, the posters often contain a lot of the elements that the film contains, which I guess it should, right? Because it's an advertisement for the film, but it actually also includes the more occult aspects, the more hidden subliminal aspects. And I'll just break it down for you here. I mean, look, that's the cockpit and it's open. And Maverick's real glad about that. He looks all proud. And, all right, this is great. You got to think about this very literally and very primitively, because this is the level that there's a level here that they're operating on that you need to be aware of. The place where a pilot sits in an airplane or jet is called the cockpit. And as you can see above, the cockpit is wide open. The Top Gun logo is stylized inside a shape which resembles an arrow, pointing downwards. But the very tip is sliced off, see, down there. So doesn't quite come to a tip. But if the tip was there, this symbolic arrow, see, symbolic arrow, would come to a point right between the bottom two legs of a five-pointed star. What's between two legs? You see that little star there? Notice the words Top Gun are just below the name Tom Cruise. In the 1970s, the band Kiss had an album called Love Gun. A gun can function as a phallic symbol, depending on context. When you cock your pistol, it means you pulled the hammer back and cocked it to the rear. Now you're ready for action. The phallus/gun is below Tom Cruise in the logo, and the star can represent what is just below Tom Cruise's gun. I'm not going to say what that is just yet, but I don't think the star is perfectly level with Tom Cruise's crotch by accident. See that? Now, maybe that sounds all very abstract to you, but if you've studied Freemasonry and watched any of Jordan Maxwell's videos or things like this, there is a symbolic language out there that is used and that has been used for a very long time by people in secret societies and people who study the mystery schools. So it may seem like mumbo jumbo to you, or it may not make any sense to you, but if you really look into this stuff that I'm talking about, you will find that this is a legitimate language and there are legitimate messages being sent here symbolically. And even if you don't consciously perceive it, somewhere in your subconscious mind, the message is getting through. And that's the level they're really operating on you here. And that's the level we need to become aware of. It's been like 36 years or something since the first Top Gun film. So when we first see Maverick, he's obviously aged, but he's still completely locked into his identity as a daring fighter pilot. There he is having his coffee in the morning and reading a paper inside a hangar right next to an old jet airplane. No house, no wife, no kids, no retirement. After a good morning repair session on his vintage jet airplane, Maverick goes to wash his hands. Above the sink, we see pictures of his deceased wingman Goose. Goose and Maverick. Goose and his wife. Goose and his kid. Goose's kid by himself. Does Maverick not have any ex-girlfriends or wives at this point? I mean, he's a hotshot fighter pilot. Children of his own? Where's Kelly McGillis? Any pictures of her? I mean, what's going on here? But no, it's basically a Goose shrine here. And as we view Maverick washing his hands from behind, it also looks like he's masturbating to this wall of pictures. And that's the screenshot right there. Go watch it. It looks like he's jerking off in front of this thing. But what does that mean? Jerking off to his Goose shrine. Before Maverick leaves the hangar, we see a picture of Goose in his locker, flipping the bird. You see, there's his hand there. He's flipping the bird. And what does that mean? It means F you, right? The middle finger is supposed to represent a penis. That's what the hand gesture means. It's a penis. So it has a sexual connotation. Now, this is going to come up later. So just hold that image in your head for now. Just hold that thought. Put it in the back of your mind. If you'd like to watch the full version of this video, Maverick, what it's really about, go over to my Rumble page. You don't have to have a Rumble account. It's just like YouTube. You just go to the address, which I will put in the description, and it'll come right up and you can watch the whole thing. There's a lot more to get to. So it's rumble.com, and I am Joe Gilmore without the E. This is an exclusive on Rumble for my channel, so I hope you'll join me there.